Killer's Kiss is directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it stars Irene Kane and Jamie Smith. Welcome back to my Stanley Kubrick series. Killer's Kiss is Stanley Kubrick's second feature film. After he made his first film, Fear and Desire, Stanley Kubrick was left unsatisfied, and he quickly made his next film. And 2 years after the fact, Killer's Kiss was released. And, as always, this review may contain spoilers to Killer's Kiss. So if you've never seen this film and you want to avoid any and all spoilers, I would highly recommend skipping to this timestamp so you can receive my spoiler-free thoughts and my final grade on this film. I will also leave a timestamp in the description that you can skip to. Even though Stanley Kubrick wasn't satisfied with the final product, Killer's Kiss is what he considers his first feature film. I mean, this was the first film in his career that he didn't actively try to destroy later on in his career. This film was made with $75,000, and then it was later sold to United Artists for $100,000. At this time, Stanley Kubrick had reached superstar status, if you know what I mean. Killer's Kiss was kind of the only film that got any notoriety. It had a cult-like status, but it wasn't a big smash hit. Even though this is far from being Kubrick's best film, it is a relatively underrated noir film. The best thing I can say about this film is the cinematography and overall atmosphere. This film opens up in New York's Penn Station, and yes, this is the old Penn Station. This was before Penn Station had gotten slaughtered by the city. This film primarily takes place in 1950s New York City. And yes, this film has a very grungy type 1950s noir aesthetic, and I absolutely love it. Being able to see the streets in black and white and during the 50s is just an absolute treat, if you know what I mean. It's almost like hopping in a time machine. Also, I think the noir genre is relatively underrated. I know it died in like the 60s because it was too overplayed, but I think maybe they should bring it back. I mean, we have neo-noir films like Collateral, but I mean, I feel like that we should just get more noir films, because I think it's a really cool genre. Probably my favorite scene in this film is the climactic foot chase on top of a rooftop. The reason why I love this scene so much is you get to see the New York skyline and the Brooklyn Bridge, back in the 1950s. I don't know, every time I see 50s New York, I don't know, it's just, there's something about 1950s New York that I just really love. There's just something about it. I don't know if I could really explain it, if you know what I mean, why I love 1950s New York. It's got the perfect amount of, griminess and grunginess to it, but also the perfect amount of, Hollywood, big lights, big action, and it just and those two things just mesh so perfectly, especially in this film. I said in my review of Fear and Desire that the cinematography in that film was practically the only redeemable quality about that film. But the cinematography in this film blows the cinematography in Fear and Desire out of the water. There is just so many shots that are honestly just breathtaking. And they really capture the grungy, grimy feel of 1950s New York, and also the bright lights of 1950s New York. Pretty early in this film, there's this one dream sequence that reminded me of the Stargate sequence in 2001. There is so many scenes in this film that really reminded me of scenes that were in his later films. It is very clear that he took some of the cinematography techniques that he learned in his early films and implemented to his later films, and honestly mastered those techniques. And you could see the origin of some of the greatest scenes in cinematic history here in this film. For example, the climactic scene with the statues really reminded me of Clockwork Orange. And I know this one might be more of a stretch, but the scene where our main character is being heckled by the people, by the New Yorkers, it really reminded me of a very similar scene in Eyes Wide Shut. Maybe I'm just speculating or just looking too far into this film, but it is fun to kind of think about where Kubrick got his inspiration for some of the scenes in his later films. The characters in this film aren't amazing, but also at the same time they're not terrible. They might be slightly forgettable, but they're not cardboard cutouts. They're real characters with real motivations and real emotions. Our main character, Davy, is a washed-up boxer, though his life gets complicated once he meets a woman played by Irene Kane named Gloria. He almost immediately falls in love with her, though. This film addresses that these two aren't acting very rational. I mean, it kind of poses the question if they actually love each other or not, or if they're just very, very high on raw emotions. This film forces you to come to that conclusion yourself. It doesn't really give you a straight-up answer. Well, sort of. All of what I just said is the case throughout this film. Though, at the end, it does show that they end up getting back together, and it's this big, happy ending. I mean, I don't really have a problem with happy endings. My problem lies is it's just not very Kubrick. I feel that the ending to this film feels too shallow and simplistic. Apparently, Kubrick wanted it to end where Davy was left alone in the train station, and it is left ambiguous if he reunites with Gloria or not. That would have been so much better. It would have fit more with the tone of this movie. Apparently the studio forced this happy ending, because apparently happy endings sell or something. I don't know. But it is clear that studios have been tampering with directors' visions as early as the 1950s, and it's probably been going on even earlier. The fact that studio interference still happens to this day just makes me sick. I also have some other issues, or nitpicks, if you want to call them that, with this film. All the scenes where Davy is talking to his manager on the phone, and it shows the manager's end. He is in a boxing gym, but it's very clear that the actor isn't actually there. I can tell by this because the foreground and background don't go together. They don't mesh the way that they should. And I don't know if they used green screen or some other technology, but whatever they used didn't work. And it looks very fake. And I know this is like the definition of nitpicking, but the punching effects sound fake. There's something wrong with the punching effects. It just doesn't sound like real punches. Just listen for yourself. Overall, Killer's Kiss is a massive improvement from Fear and Desire. Though, again, this is far from being one of Kubrick's bests. If you haven't seen this, I would highly recommend giving it a watch. And overall, Killer's Kiss gets a B. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my review of Killer's Kiss. And if you did, make sure to give this video a like. And if you want more content like this, hit the subscribe button and ring the bell notification so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. And shout out to Lobsters and Andy Serkis. Thanks for watching.